scare spooks and demons.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thriving in Chaos. With me as always is my wonderful, beautiful, sweet co-host, Stella Rune.
The flatterer. Hi.
Is it getting me somewhere?
It's always getting you somewhere, baby.
Of course. And as always, I'm your host, Rebel Phoenix. Today, we actually have a great show planned, and it's going to be a horse of a different color, but I'm super excited.
Oh, I love the horse of a different color bit.
It is a horse of a different color because we actually have somebody from the true crime field today.
I'm very excited for this.
And not only is he from the true crime field, but he also sells memorabilia in the true crime field. So without further ado, let's bring to the stage Mr. Chad Offbeat.
Hello,
Hey,
how y'all
Chad.
doing? Hello.
How you doing? How's it
I'm doing
going?
good. Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks for being
Yeah.
here. We appreciate
No
you.
problem. Of
Yeah.
course.
And taking the time out of your, I'm sure,
Oh,
very
no.
busy day.
No, all good.
Didn't drop
we
the
lost
whole
him.
time.
I know.
Oh, no. Did I go out on you?
You
Little
did.
bit.
It's funny because like pre-show you didn't go out at all.
Oh, no. Hold on one second.
Pause for the cause, guys. Pause for
Hello?
the cause.
Hello?
You can hear. Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm
Hello.
so sorry. Something happened.
Can
with
you
the
hear me
headphones.
now?
I am so sorry, guys. My
All good.
apologies.
Oh, good.
I was worried
It's all
about
good.
I'm kind of in the middle of Kentucky, so I was kind of worried about internet connection issues, but I'm trying my best over here.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, you're in Kentucky? I'm in West Virginia. We're neighbors.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's not far at all.
That's awesome.
We're actually going to be in Kentucky for the Scarefest weekend
Okay.
In
Yeah.
October.
in October.
We'll be there. We'll be there as well. Last year we did. We were guest speakers at Scarefest,
Oh,
and
very
this
cool.
year,
Oh
this
yay!
year
We
we'll
can
be there as well.
network.
We'll be there this year too.
We
and
can
we're
be.
probably,
We can be. We
Did
can
y'all
be
do good last
Scarefest
year?
buddies.
Yeah, for sure.
No, this is our first year.
Okay.
We just
Yeah,
started our
Scarefest.
show a couple months ago, back in January, actually.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
it's not been that
we're still
long.
a baby.
Just a
We're still a baby in the world. We're still coming up, finding our place. Speaking of
Yeah.
place in the world, let's talk about your place in the world and tell the folks who you are and what it is you do and bring to the table.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Chad Shepphard. Me and my wife own Offbeat Horror. We've been collecting, buying, and selling true crime relics, haunted artifacts, oddities, horror memorabilia for the last decade. In addition to that, we're also filmmakers. We've got several film projects we've been working on. One's a show where you kind of follow us and kind of see how we obtain these items, the people we buy them from, the people we sell them to, how we authenticate them. We also have a documentary with the family of a serial killer we're working on. And we just went and shot last weekend with a detective out of Atlanta on a serial case that she worked on. She actually solved an old serial killer cold case. So we've got a lot of things on the that we've got in the oven and just waiting for one to be done and pay off. So we do a little bit of everything.
That's awesome.
Well, damn, now he's got to do a story on me. I'm a byproduct of a serial killer. My
Okay.
sperm donor was a serial killer.
Wow.
He died in prison back in, 2000.
Wow. Yeah, I'd definitely love to hear that story.
Yeah. I'm boring. I don't have any of that.
It's
That's pretty much
yeah, you were sheltered as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a cousin in jail for murder, but like, that's it.
Yes.
It's not as interesting.
Who doesn't have a cousin in jail
Yeah.
for
I know.
murder? Okay,
Yeah. We all do.
it's just a new norm. 1 in
Pretty
4 people is a serial killer. Okay, you probably walk past 68 of them every day on the street.
That's very true.
Although that makes me look at the houses in my neighborhood and wonder which of the 1 in 4 is the serial killer. I'm gonna be like the Disturbia guy with the binoculars looking out the window.
A surprise plot twist. It's you.
I'm always thinking the same thing when I go out into public or large crowds of people. That's the exact same thing I'm thinking. Like, who here who here's the murderer. There's at least one or two in this room.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny because like doing like horror conventions and stuff, I feel like that number kind of goes up because
Absolutely.
again, people tend to stick around what they know, and if that's your MO, I feel like you're more likely to stick around like horror situations.
Yeah, that's very true.
Those are your kind of people. But
Sometimes
luckily for us, there's only 3 of us on here, so we're good. There's none of us are serial killers that we know of.
Yeah.
somebody
Keep your eye
somebody
on
else
that one down
joined.
there, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of serial killers, so I saw on the website that you sell human remains. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we originally started. We got into the collecting of human remains. Like we bought a human skull, probably about 9 years ago. And like a lot of things, we don't intentionally start out to sell things, but we buy something, and then our friends see it, like, well, hey, how can I get one? And then I've just always been a salesman. I always go to it. Well, hey, I could probably make a few bucks on this, So
Makes sense.
we started looking into it. Like it wasn't until 9 years ago I didn't know you could even legally own human remains. And the fact is, in majority of all states across the United States, you absolutely can. A lot of times when people are donating their bodies to science and that kind of thing, they're sometimes they end up with pretty much body brokers. I don't know any other way to say it.
Mhm.
But your body's actually worth a lot broken down than it is as a whole unit, if you break it down to pieces. So a lot of times you'll have some things go off for medical science, and then you'll have some things end up in a display case in someone's house that looks like me or it looks like you. But a lot of people don't know that.
This is how horror movies start out.
Yeah.
I started buying them, and I figured I could just make my own.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm sure this
Ed
happens.
Gein to anybody.
Yep. But all the stuff we buy and sell is legally acquired. A lot of it's old retired medical specimens.
Do you ever know who they belong to? Like, do you get a backstory at all, or just?
Yeah, but it's I've been given backstory in the beginning when I first started doing this, and I'd buy stuff and I'd be given a backstory. I'd believe it until I'd find out it was confirmed to not be true. Because a lot of times, like we sold a very rare human skull that was actually encased in 3M plastic. It was made, don't quote me on the time frame, but like I'm going to say early 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in that time frame, for doctors to do for testing. So in the top of the skull had 2 holes where they could put these kind of rods and test for brain tumors, that kind of thing. It was kind of showing, it was used for doctors. They're very rare. And the guy I got it from, I had never seen one, but I knew it was a real human skull. I know they have phantom skulls, which are the ones encased in plastic, but never did I see one with viewing ports. So I immediately bought it, and I had a museum from Brooklyn buy it. And I thought I got a good deal until I saw them post about it. This is the most rare skull you can find right here. And I was like, oh, I probably could charge more for that one. But
his slogan is "You die, we buy."
Yeah, the story I got from the guy I bought it from, that it been passed. It originally came from a doctor, and it was his wife's skull, which I didn't at the moment I heard that. I was like, yeah, this is bogus. And it had sat in an office, and ended up in a box in a storage unit. Nobody wanted to touch it, and they just wanted to get rid of it. Which is the best ones to get, because that usually is where you get them real cheap, and you can actually make a few bucks. So if anybody out there's watching this, they got something they want to get rid of, contact me. I'll take it.
That's awesome. That's actually really cool. I didn't even know that you could buy like human remains. I guess it makes sense. There's a market for everything, but
yeah. Matter of fact, like, I got a couple pieces within arm's reach.
Oh yeah.
No pun intended.
You die, we buy. You smell, we sell.
So this is he says this is a human heel bone.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
I sell these at, just as you see right here, at conventions.
That seems really big for a foot.
Yeah, well, that's your whole heel bone. And it probably the way the camera looks, if I do it more comparison, it could also have been someone who's really tall. This is a human vertebrae.
I always find vertebrae are really neat because just like the shape is cool and they just neat. Oh,
and I sell these for like $60 at conventions, So if you break it down into pieces like this, like if you have an entire human body that you donated to science that ends up at someone's house, and they break it down to sell it, This is usually, you'll get, sell it that way. I'll sell everything from tibias to humerus bones to skull to rib bones, all of it.
What do you typically sell skulls for?
It just depends on the quality of the skull.
Mhm.
If it's got all its teeth.
Oh no.
Sorry about
No, it's
skulls
okay.
can range anywhere from on the low end $400 if they're busted in bad shape, and they can go up into the thousands, depending on how nice they are. If they're medical skulls, if someone took the time to cut the skull caps and have them where they fold open and where you can look at all things, so just a lot of factors involved. But if you're wanting your first human skull and you're not too much worried about quality, you can get probably about the 800 to 1,000 range to get a decent one.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
Damn,
Yeah.
I'm worth dead. I'm worth more dead than I am alive.
Yeah. That's true.
I always tell my kids, I was like, you don't need to bury my body. Just donate me to science. You'll get like ashes back or something. They're probably not even my ashes, but
that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand when you donate your body to science. A lot of times those things do go to like positive places. A lot of people are used to for medical research, but in some instances, it's the military buys the bodies to test with explosive devices. They've had several. It's public record, but they've had several people that have been body brokers who your bodies have been mistreated. I was listening. There's a podcast I listened to called Time Suck with Dan Cummings, and he's talking about the human body trade. And he was talking about one warehouse in Tennessee was raided that was a body broker, and they had went to the extreme of sewing on different heads to different bodies, like making these big.
I heard that.
Yeah, and it was real. And they weren't doing anything illegal because they legally owned everything. So one thing,
but it's like these like Frankenstein type
one
deals.
thing to consider before you go and give your body up to science, or you check that little box. There's a lot more detail than people think.
Yeah, I'll be dead. I don't need it. I don't really care what happens to my body.
When I die, I want to be donated where the action is. Shoot me out of a cannon, blow me up for research, donate me to medical schools to be a cadaver that gets chopped up.
Yeah. I really want so I talked to my dentist about this. My dentist is he's like a member of our family. And he was saying how in school they would have to go layer by layer through the skull to see how it all lays out because they're dealing with your skull. Yeah. They would go layer by layer in the skull, and they would actually have cadavers, and I was like, that would be the coolest thing ever to know my skull got cut in tiny little pieces and studied for medical science. I would love that. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm I'll be dead. I don't need
the only part of my body still worth a damn.
Yeah. That's another thing too, is you can take a skull too. If you've got a skull that's got some damage, you can bust it into 30 pieces and make more money off selling individual pieces, because a lot of people can't afford $1,000 skull, but they might be able to afford $100 skull piece,
like a slice or whatever. Yeah. Well, and it's cool too because if you think about it, and you got some very unique damage and stuff, you got to be worth more.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Should we be worried that we're all sitting here talking about cutting up human bodies like it's a piece of cake?
Yeah.
I mean, dead bodies for medical purposes.
Yeah, well, I think.
Let me just go get a slice of that skull, please. Yeah. I'll take the chocolate one over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, after I die, I don't really care. I'll be dead anyway. It doesn't matter to me. I think it would be cool to have my skull displayed on a mantle and someone sit around, and I'm now a talking piece for when people come over to the house.
I called dibs.
I
call dibs on your skull when you're gone.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and I'm I'm an organ donor.
Put it in your will.
I'll be dead. Take the organs. I don't care. As long as I don't feel it.
An organ donor.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I'm an organ donor, but none of my organs are worth a shit. I'm half blind. I have diabetes, so my pancreas is screwed. I have heart failure, so that's not going to work for anybody. So, yeah, my kidneys are shutting down, so they don't want anything from me except my skull.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's to be a value on it. Like I said, the military were buying it and attaching it to rockets and seeing what kind of EIDs and different things would do to human bodies. So.
I'm totally fine with them doing that with mine,
Yeah.
personally.
I would be cool with that as long as they invited my family and made like a barbecue or party out of it or something, you know, where everybody could watch from a distance.
I don't even want to
Yeah.
know all the things that somebody would do with your body, Stella.
Yeah.
Hey, whoa. Alrighty. First of all, I'm not selling on the black market. It's just going to science.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Again, this is how horror movies start.
I mean, I don't know. If you can make money off, I don't care. I'll be dead. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Be my guest.
Unless you're like Teresa's and they take your organs while you're alive.
Yeah, let's not do that. I need them while I'm living. Once I die, I don't
They don't care. They just want the money. They don't care.
Yeah, I do though. Personally.
So where would one be able to purchase these things from you? Because when I tried to go on your website, I couldn't figure out how to buy anything from it.
So really, it's just about messaging one of us. Like, you know, if you go to offbeathorror.com, and there's going to be a lot of different drop-down links, everything we do, and one of those would be our Instagram. So you can go like my personal Instagram or personal Facebook, message me. A lot of this stuff too is kind of word of mouth. You know, I've got a lot of customers that, like Judy, I think, who introduced me to you guys, has been a longtime friend and customer. Yeah. And she's introduced me to a lot of people and vice versa, you know, so a lot of it has kind of been that over the years. A website.
She's coming on our show too.
What's that?
She's going to be a guest on our show in the next couple months too.
Oh, that's great. Judy's great, man. She's like our go-to person for anything dealing with paranormal stuff. She's bought several haunted artifacts from us. She bought a mummified human arm from us. She has I didn't realize how many things she had bought from us until she tagged me in a post where she just recently got a display case and everything was in there. I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of stuff. Like, wow. Yeah, she's been really good to us over the years.
That's really cool. What kind of haunted artifacts do you have? Like, do you typically sell?
So we had a last rites kit that I had bought. You know, a lot of times people have a story with it, and I like a good story like anybody. I didn't think too much of it when I bought it. Supposedly at the time I bought it, there had been a paranormal team come and say it was haunted. We bought it, brought it to our museum that we used to have in Columbus, Georgia. I was on tour, but we had a paranormal team come through and say it was haunted again. And then the last one was Judy and her crew, and she liked it so much she ended up buying it from us. So she bought the last rites kit. We've had, like, you know, dolls and items, different notorious things from different places where like horrific true crime things took place. We still have a lot of things from like the Ed Gein property that were obtained via metal detector. I've got video of the guy on the property there unearthing it from the ground. A lot of he was able to get kind of a layout of where the house was before it was burnt down. Mm-hmm. So a lot of like old nails and stuff that, you know, probably held the structure together. Had a door jam. Matter of fact, I think Judy owns the door jam from one of the doors. So we have a lot of stuff like that, you know, carry energy, or that we believe carry energy.
Well, I would think in a situation, especially a situation that large, like almost everything that he would come into contact with would hold some kind of energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
I truly believe that. Yeah.
His case was so, I don't want to say large because that's not the right word. But impactful, I guess.
Mm.
What he did.
Oh yeah.
Was I don't even know how to put that lightly. Like, it was just shocking.
It was very shocking. It inspired a lot of horror movies that are out are inspired by Ed Gein, and he's kind of virtually unknown until recently. He's kind of been in the headlines a lot. The new documentary they've got coming out on Netflix, but prior to that, you didn't hear a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, unless we like know about, you know, the whole case and the true crime stuff.
For you guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Ironically,
I'm so
Ed
sorry.
Gein
I don't know what happened with my audio. I just lost audio. Let me see.
Oh, that's all rebel.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the absolute worst. Sorry, the audio.
Happens.
Can you hear me at all? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm back. I hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how much of that you heard. My apologies.
We heard most of what you said.
Okay. Okay.
But I was saying, ironically, with Ed Gein, he was one of the, I don't want to say lesser known serial killers, but he was on the list. He didn't have as many kills as some of the more prolific ones like Dahmer or Bundy. But because of his extracurricular activities outside of unaliving people, that's what gained him the most attention, and actually why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based off of him, especially the original. The original TCM kind of illustrates the grave robbing and the house made of bones and things like that, whereas the newer remakes actually don't.
Yeah.
So that's a very big difference between 74 and I want to say maybe 2002 the remake came out, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. He definitely inspired. He did some wild stuff, some like unfathomable things, that aren't normal. So I think you'll hear a lot more, especially when that Netflix series hits. You're going to hear him talked about a lot.
Well, especially
we actually have a letter from him.
Oh.
Ooh.
We have a letter, and then we have it framed. When we go to conventions, we went to Scarefest last year. We brought it to show it off. It does have a price tag on it, but it's kind of it's super rare. There's only a couple I know to exist, and the other one I know to exist, I think the guy has a $14,000 price tag on his, and it came from the same collection. They're written on the same type of paper in the same kind of manner.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like there's a market for everything. I feel like people would buy those just to have them.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, just for bragging rights alone.
Yeah.
Hell, I would buy that for bragging rights. What's the price tag on it? Just saying.
Well,
so we tore ours around. We've got I think 8,500 on it, and the last Scarefest we were at, we had a guy try to get us down to 6, and I just couldn't go that low because that's about what I had into it.
No, but at that point, you've already it's a piece that it's appropriately priced. It's a letter from Ed Gein.
Yeah, and it's nothing crazy. He's literally just talking about Thanksgiving and what he ate for the day. But it's between he only wrote to a couple people, and they pretty much kept it under lock and key because they knew there were people out there trying to collect his autograph, anything that referenced him. So
it's amazing to me the people that idolize serial killers, and I get it because it's a shocking thing. So it's a talking piece at that point. But
it's interesting, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can never really understand why people do what they do.
Speaking of letters from serial killers, has anybody ever heard of Dear Mr. Gacy? About the guy that was pen pals with John Wayne Gacy? They made a movie on it. I'm pretty sure it's on Prime. And it's called Dear Mr. Gacy.
Yeah. Yeah, there was
I would love to see some of that.
Yeah, there are several collectors
some of those
out there we've dealt with in the past that had direct relationships with people like Gacy, and for me, I never wanted to write any of these guys and develop any kind of personal relationship. I was just more interested in obtaining and preserving things. To me, it's just like learning tools to teach your kids and the people you care about, hey, there are evil people that really exist and really do this shit, and this is why you can't trust people.
Well, and then for instance, the letter from Ed, they're real people with real lives that's not their entire identity is murdering people. It's they're actual human beings.
Yeah.
Look at Dennis Rader, BTK. He was a pillar of his community. He was a dog catcher. He worked a government job, and nobody ever suspected him until they had no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of the best predators throughout history have always tried their best to blend in and gain your trust. That's
Mhm.
usually how it happens, you know. Some of the
Yeah.
people you feel the most trustworthy are ultimately in life are usually the ones that stab you in the back when given the opportunity. So
Right.
You're not
Sometimes
wrong.
literally.
Although, ironically, when it comes to, serial unalivers, it's never, it's okay. I'm not going to say never because we've all seen horror movies, but usually in real life, it's never the creepy guy that you would expect
yeah,
to be
No.
that kind of monster. It's always the least obvious person that you should suspect.
Well, that
Like
was the thing
like
with
Dahmer.
Bundy. Well,
yeah,
Ted Bundy was just like a really, handsome, regular
Yes.
guy that women gravitated towards, and that's part of why they
yeah.
ended up dead.
They never look like
Dahmer.
me. They always look like normal folks, you know.
Right.
I mean, Dahmer was another one. He was the
Yeah,
kind of guy that was like adorable in real life, and he was so sweet and charming and kind, and the kind
Like
of
a
guy you
lovable
wanted to
nerd
take.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to take care of him. You didn't. You would have never expect him to have that dark side. I'm sorry. I've always had a soft spot for Dahmer. Well, it's just he went through so much. Like yes, he's probably one of the most horrific killers of all time. But in reality, when you break down the psychology behind it, you almost understand it.
Yeah, but that doesn't
On at
excuse
least
it.
I didn't say it excused
I'm
it.
just
It just
saying, just to be clear.
I mean, his mom was on over 20 barbiturates when she was pregnant, and both parents were absent through his entire life, basically. His mom was in and out of mental asylums. I think at one point she tried to kill him in a bathtub. His dad was never around. He had no friends. And then when his brother was born, his parents were fighting over custody of his brother. Totally, both of them got divorced and totally moved out and left him behind. Didn't even remember him until months later. And then he just got to a point where he was so tired of being alone, he started unaliving people so they couldn't leave him.
Yeah.
yeah. I think
So,
it's just. I think
I
it's
have a soft
my personal
spot
opinion.
for
Just
him.
like a. No, I feel that. Um, my personal opinion is just something with their brain because there's a lot of people that have really bad childhoods. I didn't have the best childhood. You know, I've never had the desire to kill or mutilate or create zombies out of my friends. I
Yeah.
think it's more of like
Yeah, I
a,
can't say
it's
that.
much deeper than that. It's a small percentage of
It is.
people that turn out like that. And there are a lot of people that had, especially there's a lot of very successful people that had horrific childhoods that used that in a positive way to do something positive. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's just a lot about mental health. I think also you look at the time frame of where we had a lot more serial killers in the last, uh, probably 20 years before now than there are now, and I think it's because mental health wasn't being addressed. Mental health's being talked about a lot more. People are getting,
Exactly.
um, so I think,
Back in those days, mental health was a very taboo
yeah,
subject. Nobody wanted to admit to it. Nobody believed in therapy. And people back then believed that kids could bounce back from anything. They thought they were resilient.
yeah.
And their idea of dealing with things was suck it up and get over it.
Well, we
There
just
was no
talked about all
therapy.
this
There was no
generational
safe
trauma stuff.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
also back then you could get away with shit. Like now, forensics is, I mean,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
also
yeah.
the phone. I mean, you can't go in the woods and fart without four people having it on 4K on a cell phone. So like we're living in a different era. You can't get away with those
Yeah.
things. It's
Well,
going to be caught.
Yeah.
yeah, and we actually just talked about this. Like, as I was saying, I interrupted because I can't because my ADHD is not under control. But we had just talked about the fact that like at the time the serial killers were, more prevalent. Because I'm sure that there are serial killers now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just not as many. Or they're not
They
as
just had the Long
huge.
Island serial killer
Yeah,
come to
but we
light.
just well, like Boston Strangler, I don't think was that long ago, but it's also just living rent free in my brain right now. Um, but how at that time, like you had all these people coming back from the war, they called it shell shock, but we come to find out years later it's actually PTSD going completely untreated, and then you have all these parents raising these kids, and in conjunction with that as well, and this is a case for some of my family too. When stuff happens within your family in your home, the cops don't look at it as the problem. It's, well, you can deal with that at home. Like that's a family problem. It's not
Yeah.
a family
Yep.
problem. It needs to be addressed. And I think combining those two things at that time really creates this like storm of, extending generational trauma at least, but also kind of leads to the people who do have brains that can't comprehend right and wrong in the way that we do. You create serial killers, and then you have
Yeah.
people that can divide it up and be like, okay, I'm going to use this to push myself. Actually, do become really great people.
Like me.
Exactly.
I didn't have a good childhood, but I'm not going to say I never had thoughts of wanting to end people, but I never tried to act on them. I think at some point it's human nature to always have that one person that you just wish ill will to. But
just wish you weren't here.
I mean, what was that
but I
guy
really
that
don't care about anything anymore? So
there was actually a cop a few years ago that I can't remember his name. For the life of me, but there's a documentary about him called I don't even remember what the documentary is called now. It was something about dreaming, but he basically went into like a fetish chat and was, I guess the fetish was like cannibalism or something.
Oh yeah.
And he was talking about what he would want to do to certain people, and apparently one of the people he mentioned he actually met and interacted with in real life, and he ended up going to jail for all of that just because it was in writing, even though he never had any intention to act on it that he claims.
Well, they had to have something.
Yeah, they locked him up.
You can't be locked up for intention.
Well, I think if you attempt,
I mean,
something,
it was
like
literally
if they made like an agreement to meet somewhere and they actually went on it, maybe that's something like that. But
maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I
think that's what happened.
All the time.
That's true.
Like
so
he had
being human.
Yeah.
He had written down everything he wanted to do to this person in his fantasy, and then they went and met in real life.
Oh.
So at that point, I think they arrested him on intent. Yeah. On
because
intent,
at that point
because they had it in writing, and he went to meet his potential victim.
I think I missed that
they
part.
probably,
so that makes sense.
My guess would be they thought it was like that German couple where the guy literally filmed himself eating his romantic partner because he had his partner's consent.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you have consent, it's still wrong. Like that's
right.
what it boils down to.
Like you can't sign a waiver to be killed. Like
there's some wild folks out there for sure.
It's crazy.
Although at that point, I don't necessarily. Okay, if you have consent from somebody to do whatever it is you're doing, at that point, I don't necessarily think you could be charged with murder more so than assisted suicide.
Yeah, I agree. Because at that point, like,
it depends on what you do.
Yeah. I mean, if you follow like exactly what you say in the agreement, then sure, it should be assisted suicide. But if you waver from that in any way, then I think that becomes murder.
I mean, like, I'm the kind of person I believe in assisted to an extent. If you are terminally ill, I do not want to stay alive to watch my body disintegrate around me. I would much rather you off me in a easier, quicker manner than to have to sit there in pain and suffering and let my loved ones literally watch my body parts fall off.
Just put me to sleep forever, please.
Because we had to do that with my great-grandfather when he had, I think it was bladder cancer. Like, his fingers were falling off, his toes were falling off, and, like, his heart just wouldn't give out. It was torture.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I know you love them, but at some point you have to accept the fact that no matter what you do, it's not going to change the outcome. Yeah. I'd much rather go quick and easy than have to suffer like that. Because, I mean, something like that could take years. Years.
Yeah, that's torment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Back from our tangent.
That's so sad. Welcome to Sad Hour.
Yeah.
What would you say the coolest? What would you say the coolest piece of memorabilia you have is? Like, do you have a favorite piece? Something that you absolutely would never part with just because it is what it is?
there's nothing that I have that I wouldn't part with because everything has a price. Besides, my family, of course, but
Well,
and even then, a couple of them probably got prices on them. But the coolest thing I had, I did end up selling it, but it was the shoes that Gary Ray Bowles, who's a serial killer from Florida, he was executed in these shoes, lethal injection. He actually signed both of the shoes. He knew they would hold a value. They went to his next of kin. It came with a letter from his lawyer. I had a copy of his death certificate. I had a piece of his art. Um, I actually had Zach Baggins interested in them, but he wouldn't offer what I felt they were worth. I ended up selling them to a guy in California. Whenever we went on, we did a show called Soft White Underbelly in Los Angeles, and went on there, and I had the guy who bought them bring them to the show, and I was able to show him on that. But that's probably the coolest thing, I think. I mean, that I thought was, historical, to have something he was wearing that was literally on his feet when
right.
he was taking his final breaths. And for him to have enough kind of knowledge to know that everything he had on while he was dying was going to have value, a monetary value that would, help out his next of kin, because they
Right.
literally got it and everything was sold from his his JPay tablet, like the his TV that was in his cell, like all those things were sold. And the guy that I sold the shoes to ended up getting most of his personal items that he owned to his last, time on Earth.
Wow. I mean, that's really that kind of humanizes serial killers to a certain point where it's like, because I guarantee you, people for the most part don't see serial killers as human. Like they're doing
Yeah,
all these very inhuman things to other
yeah,
people, but
for sure.
at the same time, like they are humans themselves as well, and being able to have that like thought process to be like, well, let me provide for my family once I'm gone by signing these, writing letters, doing whatever you
Yeah,
need to do to be able to set it up so that they can sell those down the line. I think that's really thoughtful.
yeah,
It feels weird to say that,
I mean,
but
speaking of humanizing, could you imagine if you were like Liz and she found out years after being with Bundy that he was the serial
yeah,
unaliver and graper?
right.
like, uh, like you slept next to that person all these years.
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Like,
it's pretty
I don't know at
terrifying.
that point if I'd be happier I was alive or like it's insane.
I'd definitely probably be happier I was alive. I
Have
definitely want
you?
to go in the manner of his victim.
Exactly.
He was a brutal, I mean,
Yeah.
just real piece of shit, really.
Just knowing like I lived through that, and not even that you lived through it, but that you knew a completely different version of this person,
Mm.
and the whole time you had no idea this was happening. Like I feel like I would feel stupid to some degree, but at the same time, just knowing that he spared me, it would be like, oh,
Yeah,
feel lucky.
I'm also fascinated in how they managed to catch him between multiple states. I mean, he had charges in Colorado, Utah,
Hmm.
Washington, Florida, even. How the hell did
Yeah.
they catch him in Florida from Colorado? Like, I mean, I
yeah,
know how they did it, but like back then, compared
yeah.
to what we
Yeah.
have today, they were working
I,
with the bare minimum. They barely had DNA testing.
yeah. That's
It's
why it took so long.
actually
Yeah,
it's amazing to me to think about, like, knowing what we know now, like how did you deduce all this information from just like little clues, and how amazing detective work was back then. I mean,
yeah,
it's completely different now, and it's no less amazing. It's just amazing that back then like they were able to do all these things. And um I know it's like a completely like fictionalized story, not fictionalized, like it's a real story, but the story of Mindhunter and how like all of that goes, and like just seeing it like televised, not how it actually happened, but just being able to kind of see that is cool
yeah.
to see like how it actually worked and
Yes,
how they got
I
into
love
all these things.
the show. Yeah,
It was so good. Well, I love
yeah,
Jonathan Groff, so I'm like anything he's in, I'm probably gonna watch anyways. But
yeah, yeah. I mean, just as we've got some of the, like, um, there's a ton of terrible, awful humans, but there's also a ton of very smart, people that really give large contributions to society.
I think that's
Um,
really what it is too. It's like just seeing how smart we can be as humans, just to be able
yeah,
to like piece together stuff based on almost nothing,
Yeah.
And you know, I
Well,
always joke
I
that
think
I
like,
it's
totally miss
yeah.
my calling as a detective.
Yeah, I think it's
what were
just
you gonna
having a gut feeling, and I think some people, whether you call it like a medium or psychic, or I think it's just being in tune to the things around you and
yeah,
learning how to go with those gut reactions. And I think a lot of detect, like there are certain people out there that are doing incredible things. They have that, and they're in tune to it, whether they know it or not.
right.
Despite what you want to call it, it's I think it's just when you have that feeling, we all have sometimes. Anytime I've ever been in a situation that ended up to be terrible, bad, I kind of sensed it coming way before it ever happened. But I
Right.
still stuck around. So I think it's just being in tune with that, knowing, when to leave a situation or when to react and that kind of thing.
It kind of goes back into the thing, like if you were with a serial killer when they were doing all this stuff, like how do you not have that feeling? But also they probably did and just did exactly what you just said, where you just go through it. You're just like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it goes back to like, what is he, the Golden State Killer? Like he was married the entire time. I think he was murdering. And she
So
didn't
was
know until he
Raider.
got caught in
yeah,
2019.
yeah. There's a lot of them are like that, but then like when you go back and you watch the documentaries after the fact, a lot of these people do come forward. I'd say a large percentage of them and say, yeah, it's something always seemed a little off or something. I
Right.
kind of felt this and yeah, I think
It's
it's
like
just you got to be in tune to it.
it's
Yeah,
that human intuition. When you
yeah,
ignore it, it's not gonna go anywhere.
yeah.
It's just gonna
And
nag
love
you a
is
little bit.
blinding too. I mean, love
Oh,
is blinding. So,
it is. I love him.
So
yeah.
what do you guys think of Gypsy Rose? Do you know who she
Oh
is,
yeah,
Stella?
yeah. I know who
Yeah,
Gypsy.
I know exactly who she is.
I think she's.
What are your thoughts on her?
I don't. I mean,
Because I don't know.
yeah, based on just what I see, which is, perception is reality and what they allow to put out there. But, I mean, she's kind of making the best of a situation, of a terrible, horrible situation.
I,
I don't know. It is kind of
I
weird
mean
that
that's
we
the
live in a
thing.
time
Like
frame where people who commit horrific crimes are kind of looked at as celebrities. That's kind of weird.
she has
Um,
So
her own show.
yeah, I
so
know.
that's my thought is like, why are we idolizing her? But at
Yeah,
the same time, her story got so much
yeah, no,
attention and she
yeah,
had no other way out, really, like realistically. How was she supposed to escape from her mother? But like at the same time, I feel like that could have been handled a little bit more
yeah,
maturely.
yeah,
Like maybe we didn't need to kill our mother.
yeah,
I don't
Um
yeah,
know. Like maybe she could have just gotten her boyfriend and walked out the door.
yeah.
yeah, like let me just leave.
Yeah, well, she
But
could have. She, her mother deserved to endure a lot more. Probably, like if her mom would have sat in prison as opposed to being
yeah,
murdered. She's
her
probably
mother
a lot more
definitely
deserving
deserved
of that.
prison time.
Yeah,
She needed to be in prison
Yeah.
for life, and that's
yeah,
how she needed to end her life because
yeah,
that woman, she did not need to put Gypsy Rose through what she put her through.
yeah,
Like that poor girl had been through so much. And like
But
as a mother, like I do not understand how you hurt your kid for attention that way. I mean, I guess I kind of see it, but like I could never do that to my kid. I could never like intentionally hurt my child. And I'm sure at first she wasn't thinking she was hurting her. Oh, we're just going to do this and, whatever's going to happen. And then it just
yeah,
got very overwhelming and it's the thing like you lie one time and then it becomes a lifestyle
yeah.
basically.
Well, it was her cash cow too. She was her
Right.
cash cow. That was her source
Right.
of income.
And I mean like we've all
I
been in
mean,
situations where we felt stuck regardless if we really were or not. So I feel like that's how Gypsy Rose felt. What were you going to say, Rebel? I kind of interrupted you.
oh well, I don't know. I guess I was kind of interrupting you too, but it's hard to tell when anybody of us are done.
Tag, you're
So
it.
I don't know. My feeling on the situation is, on the one hand, yeah, I sympathize with what she went through and what she chose to do to get out of that situation. But at the same time, the celebrity status is a problem because then you have all of these people watching this show that are going to be like, oh, it's okay if I go off my
Kill
family
someone.
because then I can get a TV show.
Yeah,
I'll be the most
Right.
famous person in America. It glorifies, just like Teen Mom. The whole point
Yeah.
of making that show was to stop people from getting pregnant, and it just created more people getting pregnant because they were like, oh, if I get pregnant at 16, I can have a TV show and I'll be famous.
Yeah.
A couple of those young women actually have an entire line of adult toys. I just want you to know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. So
Mhm.
what good did it really do? What good did
Right.
it do? Because after there's Teen Mom, there's Teen Mom 2, Teen Mom 3, Teen Mom the next chapter, Teen Mom OG.
Right.
So and then God knows how many seasons of 16 and Pregnant there were.
Yeah.
And then you had Engaged and Underage and all these other spin-off shows from this one show that was created for a purpose and did not
Didn't
follow
serve that purpose.
through on that purpose.
Yeah.
Just like Gypsy Rose.
Right.
What was the purpose of her show other than giving her an income because she obviously can't get a job anywhere being
No,
a
it wasn't.
murderer?
Her show wasn't given to her for her to make income. It was because they could make money off of her.
Oh yeah.
And
It was for money.
she, and she really doesn't have any other options. Like, what is she gonna do? Because her name is out there so much that she can't do just anything. Like, nobody's gonna trust her, to work privately with them because they don't know what she's
Right.
like. And that poor girl has been so tortured through her life. And then she was, she served her jail time and such. But I, I'm not saying she shouldn't have served jail time. Jail time was justified, but also what she did, I can also see as justified.
Right.
As horrible as that
I'm
is
not
to say.
disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that she's being looked at as an
Mhm.
opportunity to make money to the rest
Yeah.
of America. So now every time somebody gets mad at their parent, they have the idea they can just go off them and make money doing it.
Right.
It
Right.
definitely.
Well, and
Kind of like
yeah, it does, but like that's
Or-
so
go
rare that
ahead.
you can make money off of that situation. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna kill your parents and go to jail. That's
Well,
it.
see, I don't know. Look at the Mendez brothers. They now have a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Look at Dahmer. He's got a show on Netflix. He's got millions of movies. Look at Manson. He has millions of movies, books, paintings. Gacy, books, movies, paintings.
I mean, the
Yeah.
thing about that, like if you're in
This-
jail and you have all that money coming in, that's
It's
not
a
really.
cash cow industry.
I mean, Manson wanted to be famous anyways, so he got exactly what he wanted.
Ironically, I don't remember him ever actually killing anybody. I think he was
He
just the
didn't, no.
mastermind behind all of it.
Yeah.
So it's funny that people call him a serial unaliver when he never actually unalived anybody. He was just the mastermind behind the madness behind the method, I should say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, just because of the fact he was able to get people to do whatever he wanted,
It's like Jim Jones.
he was
although
definitely
Jim Jones-
guilty. He's definitely contributed.
Again,
Absolutely.
books, movies, cash cow. Every single one of these people in history has some kind of way
Yeah, but
that they created a fortune with these objects.
a lot of these people, like especially some of these older guys that die in prison or die through a death sentence, the people that are making the money are the media. I mean, a lot of the people are, like these big networks and stuff. Not so much the victims. It's not like a lot of this money's going to the victims, or which it should, or the killer itself. A lot of people that are having the biggest financial gain on all these things are production companies and the people involved with the filming of.
No, I
In
agree.
fact-
Actually, that makes a lot of sense too. And like it almost feels like there should be some kind of like foundation set up, so like
Yeah.
the victims of these can at least get a portion of the money that's being made off of
For sure.
their family
Actually-
passing
Yeah,
away.
their families. Yeah.
Actually, if I remember correctly, when Netflix released the series about Dahmer, Lionel Dahmer was taken to court over the profits of that by the victims' families.
Yeah.
And I think the victims' families ended up winning and they got all that money.
It's the same thing with Nicole Brown Simpson's family and OJ. Like all the money that was made off of all of that case, like none of that went to her family.
You will never convince me that man was not guilty.
Oh, he absolutely was guilty, in my opinion. Like it doesn't make any sense that he wasn't, but the crime scene was so destroyed that I feel like the evidence was just it was there, but it wasn't there.
Well, Lionel
Yeah.
ended up selling pretty much all of Dahmer's childhood things. A lot of things that his personals, all those went to several collectors. I know a couple of the guys that own them. Some of those pieces of those collections.
That's what it was. When he sold Dahmer's estate, all the money had to go to the victims' families. That's what he got sued over.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're selling his personal things that didn't have anything to do with the murders, that's one thing. But if you're selling things that are a product of those murders, that needs to go to the victims' families.
Yeah,
If you're like selling his pants, sure, you keep that money. But like, if you're selling, memorabilia from this horrific murder, like your niece was murdered or whatever, like your family should get money for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When you said the pants, like I just pictured Lionel Dahmer holding up a pair of pants with like a skid mark circled in it. Jeffrey Dahmer shit here.
Yeah.
Authentic shit stain.
Newsflash, breaking news, Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't know how to wipe his ass.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? I have a very morbid sense of humor, obviously.
No, you're
That's
good.
what I mean. I'm the kind of person I laugh at a funeral because we're all gonna die someday anyway. Who cares how we go?
That's very true.
So I didn't tell you this the other day when you had mentioned that. So I have 3 brothers. We sat at my great aunt's funeral and like we made jokes the entire time. And my cousin, who was not her child, she didn't actually have any children, but it was actually my mom's cousin. She gave us like the dirtiest look the entire time. But, like this woman was like, in her 80s, 90s. Like she lived a long time, and we're just like, this is a long time coming. We expected this to happen. Like, yes, we're sad, but we also don't want to be here. So it's just like we also laugh at funerals. That's what we do. You can't put us together at a funeral and expect us not to laugh.
Exactly.
We're gonna make jokes. But yeah. But it's like
yes, we love morbid jokes on this channel.
Morbid anything, which is why this is such an interesting thing, because like I didn't even know you could buy the human remains and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so if you could, I'd actually have one question because I know we're almost out of time, but like, is there some I guess like true crime case, or that came out weird, something you haven't gotten an artifact from that you would be interested in getting artifacts from if you could find it?
Yes. So you talk like my grail piece of true crime.
Your holy grail of all true crime things.
Yes.
I mean, if we're dreaming, why not go with like an Israel Keys kill kit? That are said to still be out there somewhere in circulation. So if I'm dreaming, something like that would be an incredible find. I would love to get a team of the best and capture it all on video and go out and search and find one. I think that would be super
Israel
cool.
Keys. Is he the one that grabbed the girl out the drive-through of the coffee shop?
He was also the guy that would fly over from Alaska into the States, rent a car, drive hours down the road, bury a kill kit, everything he needs to kill someone, then fly back home, let a period of time go by before he flew back, retrieved the kit, and actually killed someone. So it would be harder to trace him through video surveillance, and a lot of people are found through Home Depot video surveillance or Walmart. That tends to be the places people stop right before they can go commit a murder.
Then he left the body in his garage for what, weeks? Was it?
No,
weeks,
it was.
months,
I think it was close to a month. It was cold. I mean, it's Alaska, so it was pretty much frozen. But yeah, he killed her, went on a cruise, came back, put makeup on her, did a ransom, sent a photo of her when she was actually already dead, but made it look like she was alive. Had her eyes open, like sewed open, to do a ransom, and ultimately that's how his greed is what caught him.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was a big piece of shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Very interesting person. Also,
I've definitely heard that story.
Also, ex-military, like most of them.
Yeah, it's amazing how many serial killers are in like law enforcement of any kind.
Yeah.
Again, Golden State Killer. He was a cop. Like, it's amazing to me. At least I'm pretty sure he was a cop.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. Like, it's a sad world we live in when the people that are supposed to protect you can't even be trusted to protect you.
Yeah.
There's a line in a song
Yeah.
that says something like, something about the killer and the protector are wearing the same uniform, and I was like,
Yeah.
that is so impactful because it's so true. Like the people that are supposed
Yeah.
to protect us are also the people that are very likely
Yeah.
to murder us.
Don't trust anybody. I
Nope.
mean, a uniform doesn't mean shit.
I don't.
No. There are good police officers out there,
Yeah.
I
but they
don't
are so
trust
few and
They're
far
anybody.
terrible ones
between.
too.
And it's the exact same thing as the not all men mentality. It's like you don't know who's going to hurt you, but you can't trust anybody because everybody comes off the same way until you know them.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as
And you
they're
don't
human, there's always gonna be corruption. So
absolutely because it is human nature.
I mean, thanks to Ted Bundy, I can't even look at disabled people the same. You know, like if somebody with a broken
Yeah.
arm comes up to me or somebody on crutches asks me for help, like you don't even know if they're legit hurt. Like Bundy ruined that for everyone because he
I
would
mean,
fake injuries. He would fake
Gypsy
injuries
Rose.
to get people to help him.
Gypsy Rose, all her illnesses were fake.
Well, yeah, but she wasn't the one faking them. Her mom
No,
had
she
like some
wasn't.
kind of
Well, I
her
think there
mom had
came.
like Munchausen syndrome or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
called
there
that anymore, but
came a time where she knew that she wasn't that sick and she knew what the deal was, and she still continued to play along. You know.
well, I think that's when she had started to reach out to that guy. I forget what Nicholas or something, and she had reached out to him, and they became close. And I think that's when she started realizing she didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But certainly better ways to handle that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that note, do you want to leave our viewer audience with anything before we close?
Yeah. You can check out all of our stuff at offbeathorror.com. You can watch our show that's streaming on Cold Open. We're in the process of bringing our show to Roku TV. Hopefully that'll be by the end of the summer. Working on a couple really cool things. So all that can be found at offbeathorror.com. Our events are there. Our podcast is there. You can buy something through there. Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We really appreciate you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
really
I'm
enjoyed
sorry
this
about the
talk.
connection issues.
Oh, it happens. It's all good.
Anything mechanical is subject to failure.
Yeah. Technology, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you in October in
Yeah,
Lexington.
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
That'd be
stay in
awesome.
touch. Let's link up at
Yes.
Sketchfest for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This will be so fun. I'm so excited to do it. We haven't done a convention as vendors before, but so
Yeah.
that'll be our first time, I think.
Oh, it's a great one. That's a good one to make your first too. It's excellent.
Yeah. So we're excited.
Super excited. And on that note, we are